This episode of UDS Election Hub is proudly brought to you by Dolce's Ghana, ice creams, birthdays, and more, and Burger Shack, the King Shack in burger making.
You're welcome back to the show with me, Eastman Graham. My guest is still a Wocom SRC aspirant, HILDAGARD-pt. So, Hildegard, I have been getting a lot of questions about the exact roles of the SRC Wocom. Most people on campus don't really know exactly what the Wocom does, and it feels distant from all the other SRC portfolios. So, in a nutshell, I want you to briefly tell us what exactly the Wocom is responsible to do.
Thank you. So, the Women Commissioner stands alone. She's not under the NUCs. Okay, so just as we have the NUCs under the SRC, there's also the Women Commissioner under the SRC.
Okay.
So after she's elected, she forms a committee with a rep of every departmental Wocom that will be in there. So she would have from the Faculty of Education, the Wocom, she will have that of the CN, and then running through. And then she would have a rep from the hostels, the school hostel, who will be a rep for the women in there. And then at the end of the day, she's more like the rep for all the women on campus. So when she is voted...
Coming on this, if you say having a rep from each association, how about the associations who don't have Wocom in them? Like in my association like this, MMSA has no office of the Wocom. So how do you choose your rep from such association?
Mostly we pick from each year.
Okay.
So since you don't have, but then with the JCR, that's the Junior Common Room, I think it's not really practiced here.
Right, yeah.
But then over here you pick a rep from each year.
Each group?
Yes,
Okay.
each year group. So it's from level 100 to 700 or 600. And then you have the rep for the hostels, the school hostels, and then those who are not on campus, those who are outside campus, who come from outside. So you also have a rep in there. Wow. So at the end of the day, you form a whole committee on your own. So just as we are talking about, I think most people know Wocom has to organize programs for women empowerment and all of that. Not only that, she can go ahead of that to organize certain programs where or which would help the ladies even after school.
Right.
And all of that.
Okay. It's a really good thing, as I said earlier, because it's actually becomes like a pinnacle or say a place to look up to for all the women on campus, right? So at this point, I'd like to ask you a few questions about the SRC as we have it now. I always ask all my interviews this question. It's very delicate in my heart. Do you believe that the SRC has the needed resources to really handle its own affairs?
Okay, I think the SRC is not having all the resources. They're not having the necessary resources, but then I believe the SRC is doing their very best. They are doing everything possible to make this place a better place to be. And at the end of the day, if there's anything extra that needs to be done, I wouldn't hesitate to join hands to that to make it a better place.
Right. So our next question has to do with a very delicate matter in the governance of our institution and even at large in our country, which has to do with religious diversity. Recently, I'm sure you heard about an incident in a certain senior high school where a certain student who apparently was a Muslim was prevented from engaging in her fast because it was a Christian school. What do you think about this? How do you intend to bring together people from different religious faiths in your office as a Wocom? Obviously, I think you would be working with Christians and Muslims, and then even other people who might be traditionalists and all that. How would you tackle this issue?
Okay, I think really that is really something very important, even on this campus. But then I don't really believe in religion. I believe, just as we all want the betterment of UDS, I believe in competence. So at the end of the day, why should it be that I know my brother who is a Muslim is capable of doing this, but then for the fact that I am a Christian, I wouldn't want him to? Why should it also be that my sister who is a Christian is capable of doing this, but for the fact that maybe I have a brother or a sister who is a Muslim who I sincerely know wouldn't be able to do that, I have to push that person to do that? I believe we should look beyond religion when it comes to things like this. And even in this portfolio and leadership as a whole, because at the end of the day, we all want the betterment. So I believe if you know that, okay, this person is capable of doing something, this person is willing to help, why don't I give that person a chance? Because even in my hostel, most of the tenants are Muslims, and I'm like so cool with all of them. And the last time I had a comment from one of them that they never knew a Christian to be this cool. So I believe it has to do with we united. And as a result of that, I can organize, or I would organize conferences, I will organize programs where it wouldn't be biased based on religion, it wouldn't be biased based on faculty whatsoever, but then it will be for everybody for the better.
Right. I am asking actually because in our region as we are now, UDS is in the northern part of the country, and then mostly this should not be an issue. I don't think that in my 6 or 7 years in UDS it has really been an issue, but with what happened in that SHS I was talking about, I don't think it should have happened. So it also brings to point another, I wouldn't want to use the word argument, but another discussion which has been going on in a lot of places about tribalism, in that most of the times I've actually had conversations with a lot of people who are from the northern regions of Ghana, and then they hold this notion about people from the southern part of our country that we, those of us from the southern part of the country, tend to discriminate against them from this part of the country. So I want to ask, what do you think about this whole segregation into northern and south?
Okay. This reminds me of a conversation I had with someone where the person was like, there was this UDS candidate who was going for this political thing, who was a Sauna, and since that Sauna couldn't win, that means no Sauna can win any political portfolio, even in the SRC. So meaning I really don't get it. Just as you're saying, when you go to the south, there are Northerners who hold bigger positions.
Right.
I don't think you will get to maybe an NGO where you would go and then you have only Southerners being the bosses in there. I know of certain NGOs where they have, it is mixed up, dependent on your capability and what you are able to deliver. So I would be glad if, as we being in the tertiary, I believe we can impact that by starting from here, from understanding that there's more to just tribalism. It should be competency, it should be hard work, it should look beyond tribalism.
So I have been still talking with HILDAGARD-pt. She's contesting for the post of the UDS SRC Wocom. We'll be right back after this break.
This episode of UDS Election Hub is proudly brought to you by Dolce's Ghana, ice creams, birthdays, and more, and Burger Shack, the King Shack in burger making.
So I've been having a very interesting conversation with a UDS SRC Wocom aspirant, HILDAGARD-pt. So I want to ask a very final question before we wrap up the show. What do you think about our current state as a university to host our students in lecture halls? In that we have our university admitting a lot of students into the university, but the capacity to host or to create rooms for them to have their lectures seems to be very low. A lot of the time, students have to fight over lecture halls and all that. What do you think you can, in your position as a Wocom, do to address this issue?
Okay, talking about that, I believe everybody has the chance to education, and I believe that they introducing new courses into the school even broadens the school scope. And then with the issue of lecture halls, if no went on now, I believe something can be done on, where I believe even this online lecture thing was a good thing. One way or the other, we can still continue with the online, where we balance it with, sometimes you come for face-to-face lecture, once in a while we go. That is if it is not really worked on immediately.
Right, okay. So your answer actually brought the final question to mind. We are still in the COVID era, and you talked about hosting programs and conferences to help address issues of gender inequalities and all that. How would you, in this era of COVID, ensure that though all the protocols are being observed, you still can host programs and still have enough audience in those programs?
Okay, thank you. I believe just as we are all observing the protocols, it's about the distance, we putting on our masks with our sanitizers and all of that. So now I believe if we all come for a program where we are all putting on our masks, we all have our hands washed or sanitized before. At the end of the day, we are observing protocol, even with the distance.
Right.
Also, I believe.
Right. And we are certainly observing that even in this show. As you can see, this is an arm's length distance, and so we still have to encourage students to still continue these practices, and I believe that we'll get through this together. So my guest today has been HILDAGARD-pt. Thank you so much for being on the show today. But before we close the show, we'll give you 10 seconds to look into the camera and then tell people why they should vote for HILDAGARD-pt as their next SRC Wocom.
Thank you very much. I believe HILDAGARD-pt should be voted in for the next Women's Commissioner because I believe in hard work. I believe in someone who considers everyone, not being biased about religion or tribalism whatsoever, but then someone who puts UDS women as one and UDS as a whole to bring the better UDS we all want, a better place we all want to be. Thank you very much.
This has been another episode of the UDS Election Hub with me, Ismail Graham. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and then like our videos. Please also come and support and sponsor the program so that we can keep on bringing new programs as these. So until we see you again same time next week, thank you so much for watching.